Lord Mayor John McNaughton had the honour of flagging away the 19-strong field. And it was the only woman in the race, Kay Marshall, who shot to an early lead, and for the first 10 laps looked as though she could be the one to beat. Just behind, however, was defending champion Bob Halliday, and he finally took over the lead and opened up a big gap immediately. Closing quickly was Neil Hancock, but then the first of several nasty incidents.
There's been a boat go in on Stockton. It's one of the shell boats.
Now, could it be Hancock? Hancock was gingerly hoisted into the rescue craft and later was taken to hospital, his boat a testimony to the force of the crash. On the next corner, race leader Bob Halliday came to grief. Bob Halliday has gone. He has come amiss. Broken boats littered the course and the race was stopped for the first time. Jamie DeMack holding on for dear life. Ian Purden waving for a lift. Race leader Graham Ogilvie won the second start and looked to have it parcelled up and then another rollover. Red Wings Pride a little damp and again a restart. This time Kay Marshall jumped to the front, but her race ended shortly after. Kay Marshall's gone! Stockton, Kay Marshall is over. She's upright though. Unbelievably, Marshall was able to fire up the boat and cruise back to shore. Peter Troy raced well from there on, but being a lap down before the stoppage, and with Ogilvie still in the race, his lead was in vain, as the final placing stood as Ogilvie first, followed by Troy, and Bob Trask was third in a sensational race.
Overnight leader Gary Wolstenholme had an absolute shocker. The Englishman finished yesterday on 5 under. His joy was short-lived. On the windswept Belmont course, he dropped 12 shots to be 7 over and well out of contention at the 13th. Victorian David Armstrong needed this putt on the 13th to take the lead. But all eyes were on this man, Stephen Leaney. The Western Australian came like a bolt from the blue to find himself holding on to a slender one-stroke lead. Leaney kept his cool, extending that lead over the final 4 holes. He finished on 6 under, 4 strokes ahead of Armstrong. A 3-way tie for third, New Zealand's Michael Campbell, Stephen Collins from Western Australia and Lucas Parsons from Orange, all finishing 2 shots further back.
The club's green had just undergone a 2-month renovation in readiness for a singles tournament. Today it was receiving intensive care for deep gashes where cement blocks, broken flag posts and marker pegs had gouged its surface. Greenkeeper Peter Clow was grafting grass from other areas to plug the damage.
It's the worst case in the 9 years I've been here.
Rocks were flung through walls. The members were shocked by the damage.
It's a very close-knit little community and they've been very concerned about their greens, and to come in this morning and see such damage done to their greens has been very upsetting for them.
The club's only other green is also down for repairs, forcing play to be cancelled for at least a week. The club could lose thousands of dollars in trade. Police are investigating.
The expansion of the Armidale Mineral Resources Office is part of a statewide move to centralise the department's administration into 3 centres. Offices at Orange and Singleton are also expanding operations. It means a variety of services will now be available at all 3 offices.
From now on, over the next few months, as new accommodation is found and the build-up of staff numbers is taken up, then those services will progressively be all transferred from other places, including from head office, and all be carried out from Armidale office.
Armidale's Mineral Resources Office currently employs 11 people, but that's set to rise to 24 over the next few months. The expansion also means the department must find another office, and it's hoped that will be finalised within the next few weeks. Armidale's central location is believed to be ideal for access to northeastern New South Wales.
To Armidale, it means some more jobs here, but the most important thing is the service that can be given to the mining industry by the centralising of all Department of Mineral Resources services in the Armidale office.
Departmental Environmental Scientist Dr Gregory Unwin will be part of the new operation, covering a vast area.
I'll be covering an area from Cobar, Lightning Ridge, right across to the coast and south to a line roughly running from Sydney through Dubbo. I'll be looking after all the environmental aspects in the mining industry.
Of all the people affected by the recession, no one is hurting more than the young.
Oh, the company I was working for, they went broke. All they could do was put their apprentices off. They couldn't find us any work or anything. So we had to sort of go out on our own back and find our own work.
Craig and 27 other apprentices laid off are finishing their time at the Hunter Valley Training Company at Maitland.
We live in very difficult times, but we have officers who are out door knocking and job chasing, and I believe that the young people we are taking into our workshops here at East Greta Junction will be placed when they've completed their time here.
According to the latest figures obtained by the Chamber of Manufacturers, there's been a 23% drop in apprentice intakes in the state this financial year compared with the same time last year. While that's causing heartache now for young job seekers, the Chamber says that will also cause major problems for the economy in the future.
What that means is that in the future, as things start to pick up, we will be facing massive skill shortages within companies. And the problem, of course, that will happen there is that because we have a shortage of skilled labour, those people that do have the skills will be able to basically name their own prices.
The question of future skills shortages has also been taken up by the Federation of Industrial Manufacturing and Engineering Employees. The union has submitted a report to Prime Minister Paul Keating, including criticism of the closure of BHP's Newcastle foundry and the implications such shutdowns have on the economy.
Come 1993, 1994, there is virtually no skilled tradesmen in the area, so therefore we suffer because no one's going to invest in the area where you haven't got the skills to put their industries.
From farmland to fishing haven to dumping ground, Kooragang Island has had a varied history. But now there are plans to return the western portion of the island's 8,000 hectares to its original estuarine environment. Newcastle City Council and the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries are financing a $36,000 study into rehabilitating the wetlands. Newcastle Alderman Frank Rigby says the project will be the largest of its kind in the Southern Hemisphere.
The Hunter Valley, or the Hunter River, is the best of all of them. It's recovering better than any of the others, and I think when we put this in, it will be great for the fishing industry of Australia.
Alderman Rigby is confident the return to nature on one section of Kooragang can coexist with the heavy industries at the island's eastern end. The Hunter Wetlands Trust has welcomed the proposal and asserts a revitalised Kooragang has enormous potential to attract both domestic and overseas tourists.
We see it as an important linkage between the wetlands on the western side of the river and those to the east here, and it's a piece that's been missing for a long time.
To residents of Newcastle, Australian Business Monthly magazine's verdict was hardly a surprise.
I came to Newcastle 2 years ago. For the first 6 months I hated it. After 6 months I really love the place.
People here are very friendly and I've found no trouble fitting in.
Yeah, I like it up here.
According to ABM, the top 3 cities in which to live were Newcastle, followed by Canberra and Maitland, with Sydney a poor 5th. The survey team admitted that Newcastle was not an obvious first choice. The magazine's only reservation about Newcastle was the proximity of industry to the city. However, as it pointed out, Newcastle's real attractions lie further afield. It was the surrounding Hunter Valley vineyards, beaches and national parks that really put Newcastle ahead of the others. Interestingly, neighbouring Lake Macquarie ran a poor 11th place, with the Central Coast way behind at 17. The survey result is one that will win increasing recognition for a city that has long laboured under an image problem, according to Lord Mayor John McNaughton.
The best city in the best country, it's got to have something going for it.
The city that came lowest in the popularity stakes was the Gold Coast. Ironically, it's the very same city whose growth rate is threatening to wrest away Newcastle's title of 7th largest city in Australia. Hopefully for Newcastle, the Business Monthly survey may help to change that. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
According to Dr John Nell of the Fisheries Research Station at Port Stephens, and who is also a member of the Shire Council, the 120-hectare natural sandfly and mosquito breeding area is a living, breathing asset to the port.
There is a lot of diverse plant life and wildlife here, and I think it would be a great shame if we were to develop our precious wetlands.
The wetland represents the first link of the food chain for the port's delicate marine ecosystem, and it's relied upon by the area's oyster and fishing industry. Developers plan to sand-fill the wetland for industrial and residential use, and sought council's approval for the appropriate rezoning. The request was turned down, with the council going one step further by applying to the state government to have the land turned into an environmental protection zone.
We must leave some areas that previously we have thought have been valueless, but today we realise they're important niches in the total environmental structure.
The council's decision comes as a disappointment to the Tillagary Pastoral Company that has owned the land for 30 years. A principal in the company, Mr Ian Grace, said legal advice will be sought with a view to compensation, and council may be prepared to pay.
I think that council is obliged, if it continues with the motion that was passed last night, that we must then sit down and talk with the owners and be in the position where we can purchase it, or suggest that, say, someone like National Parks purchases it.
To add to a problem that's been 100 years in the making, Bullaroo residents have had to deal with a wide range of issues recently related to the lead emissions controversy. Issues such as Pasminco's proposal to buy up houses around the plant to create a buffer zone.
People who've been here for years and years, this is their home, and of course, you know, they're getting very protective of it. I still love Bullaroo, and you know, there's no way that I think that we should just call it a ghost town or anything.
To dispel notions of a future ghost town and to help tackle the issue of lead emissions and the health problems they can lead to, an advisory committee has been formed. The committee's inaugural meeting was held this morning at Lake Macquarie City Council chambers. Residents fighting for lead emissions reductions sat beside Pasminco management. Also attending, health and education experts, the State Pollution Control Commission and environmentalists.
There are lots and lots of points of view and lots of concerns. I think what we're trying to do within this committee is to be very task oriented and to focus very much on devising and outlining the sorts of strategies that council and state government might use to address it.
Some committee members emphasised that many of the problems will stretch on for years. One representative raised the possibility of children suing parents for bringing them up in an area that could lead to mental impairment due to high blood lead levels. With an 8-month-old son, Jenny Lydiard worries about the future of the children living in the shadow of the Pasminco stacks.
If in the future it did prove that something was to fall back on him from this lead that he's had in him, I'm sure that I would take it as far as I needed to make sure that he was fully compensated.
Scott Bevan, NBN News.
Racing in the past few weeks has been confined to the new and excellent B-grass track, while diligent staff spent countless hours preparing the course proper for this weekend.
The course looks beautiful, the track's never been better, the surroundings have never been better, and it's all set for a perfect day, I'd say.
The second running of the $100,000 event has attracted horses from Sydney, the Gold Coast, Newcastle, the Hunter Valley and local entries, and the 17-strong field is one of the best put together by the Tamworth Jockey Club. And not only will the punting public of Australia be able to see the race live on Sky Channel, for the first time it will be telecast live to Las Vegas, the gambling capital of the world. And for those at the course tomorrow, a special opportunity to strike it rich.
For anyone who can pick, lucky enough, to pick the last 5 winners of the local program is in line to win $10,000. $10,000 is the prize for that. Obviously, if more than one win, they share the prize. And it did go off on Melbourne Cup Day, so there's every prospect that that could go off again tomorrow.
The top weight top comedian is the early favourite at 3s, but there will be plenty of support for Music Switch, Social Rule and Run Fire. He's No Saint and Anyone for Ballet are also in single-digit figures, and then there's a gap to the rest of the field spread out to Hot Wish at 50 to 1. NBN's Fearless tips to Gary Harley fancies top comedian in the quality handicap, race 5, number 1.
Today's mass meeting of telecom employees at Newcastle was one of hundreds across the nation. The vote to accept a lucrative 84 weeks redundancy package is considered a major step forward after 12 months of wrangling between unions and telecom. It's understood telecom is anxious to shed up to 10,000 positions over the next 3 years from its workforce of over 70,000. While the latest offer may prove tempting, it could still be rejected by the federal cabinet, which must approve the deal. Telecom has already cut staff numbers by 8,000 in the past 3 years through voluntary redundancy and early retirement. Union leaders say further cuts will be noticed.
Any reduction in staff must affect the service that we can offer the customer.
One of the biggest telecom unions, the APTU, is still to consider the offer. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
$1,200 offers of place were made for the Armidale campus of the University of New England, but the demand for places has outweighed those available. Limited resources means the university just can't accept all the students who want to study at Armidale.
Full again this year. We were funded for extra places this year, and we're delighted with that. However, that really takes into consideration the over-enrolment that we suffered last year. And students will probably be quite happy that their facilities will be quite adequately looked after this year.
Science, arts and education are the most sought after courses, while the rural science course has failed to attract as many students as in the past. The rural recession is being blamed for the lack of interest. Terry Kavanagh says the university wishes it could cater for all the students who want to study at a tertiary level.
In the current situation, we can't take very many more students. We're at capacity. However, the university would be delighted to be funded more from the federal government to take more students, to build more buildings. The university obviously would love to expand some of its current programs and is looking to other programs to develop in the future.
The Hunters Rescue helicopter crews may have had their busiest summer ever, but they've been operating amid the turmoil surrounding the service. The dispute began in August when former employee John Skeen revealed that the Angel One chopper had been mortgaged for $3.25 million and that control of assets and locally raised money had been taken over by a Sydney subsidiary of the Surf Life Saving Association. The Attorney-General got involved. Peter Collins tried to ensure the money donated to the service by the Hunter people was staying in the area, and the matter was to go before the Supreme Court next month. But the dispute has now been settled out of court after a meeting yesterday involving the government, the SLSA and people fighting for the service to be controlled locally. The Attorney-General has announced that publicly donated funds and assets bought from that money will be held in trust for the Hunter community. The Hunter Services Constitution will be amended to ensure the money stays in the region. Independent auditors will be appointed, and the board, extended to 9 members, will comprise all Hunter people, with 5 from the SLSA.
I think it's a very sensible solution. It's a solution that has been worked upon for some time between the Attorney-General and the Surf Life Saving Association. It's one which I think resolves any concerns of the public.
John Skeen says the changes made to the Hunter Service vindicate his speaking out.
There's no doubt that the issues that I raised some 5.5 months ago were all accurate, and I think after the investigations by the Attorney-General's Department has now proven that.
Mr Derwin disagrees.
The only major compromise, I guess, that's been made on behalf of the association has been that we've agreed to expand the board from 5 people to 9 people. That was a suggestion, in fact, that we made to the Attorney some many months ago. He's now agreed to that.
The Attorney-General says for the settlement to work, the Hunter people need to show goodwill. But Alderman Don Geddes, who spearheaded a push for a locally controlled service, says the current administration has no credibility, and one step to restore that would be for Mr Derwin to resign as chairman.
I believe that he, in his position, having regard to the comments that he's made in the past, has put himself in a situation where for the helicopter to be successful in Newcastle, public confidence, I don't think it will be restored until he resigns from that position.
No, I have no intention of resigning. I don't believe that the board or myself have done anything wrong. I think that's now been proven.
Scott Bevan, NBN News.
Newcastle University offered almost 5,500 places to commencing students. That's slightly more than last year, but despite this, the hard reality is almost 3,000 have missed out. From those who were offered places, the university expects a 65% acceptance rate. This makes for comfortable class sizes.
If more people accept, we're obliged to take them, but we're hoping that won't happen. If 100% accepted, it'll create overcrowding problems.
But that's not expected to happen. Normal increases, if any, are around 1%. Mr Hawkins says competition for positions is fierce. Unemployment and increased high school retention rates has seen more people applying for university. As a result, the cut-off marks have increased, and Mr Hawkins says it's the locals who suffered most.
We've had approximately 80% of the people of the Hunter Valley that went to universities came to Newcastle. Now, obviously, with the increased cut-offs, we're likely to get more people from outside the Newcastle area and force the percentage down.
One local who missed out is 17-year-old Tanya Dobson from Nelson Bay.
I was pretty disappointed. I just thought, what am I going to do now? And well, I'm going to go on and apply to tech, enrol in tech and do a course, like a office administration course or something like that.
While the unsuccessful students look to different career alternatives, the annual hunt for accommodation by students who were successful has been made a little easier. This year, the Newcastle University has leased 220 rooms of the Irene Hall Hostel. Of the 220 rooms, 120 will be made available to university students, the remainder going to Hunter Area Health Service staff. An opening enrolment day at the Hunter Institute has seen a record turnout. TAFE staff say with fewer university places and higher unemployment, they expected today's big show.
The The AMP Challenge is for the ordinary lifesaver on the beach who rarely gets the chance to compete because of their duties in protecting the general public week in and week out. Each team consists of 7 members and they battle out 4 disciplines: an ordinary swim, a run-swim-run, board paddling and rescue, and inshore rescue boat drills. Today at Fingal Beach, the hosts were absolutely furious, and the reason why they were so incensed, only 2 of the 12 clubs in the Newcastle branch bothered to turn up for the challenge. Nobbies and of course Fingal Bay, and according to one official, some of the excuses for not attending were pretty lame. For the record, Fingal Bay were the winners and Nobbies came a very close second. At the International Sports Centre, Rugby League reared its head and signalled the start of the 1992 season, where the Newcastle Knights and Eastern Suburbs are meeting for the first trial game of the year. The main game kicks off in a few minutes, but earlier those players in the President's Cup and reserve grade teams were out to impress the coaching staff of the higher grades early on, in hope of an elevation to the top. The Knights play their first Winfield Cup match against Illawarra in the 3rd week of March.
Look, I think it's a great initiative that's being taken. It means that the full-blooded partnership between industry, the local tourism body, the government is all coming together to work towards the promotion of tourism and the building of business based on tourism throughout this area.
And a boost to Inverell industry with a $500,000 government grant to build the Southern Cross food factory in the area. The food processing plant will provide 100 jobs in the first year of operation, with this number increasing thereafter. Products processed locally will be distributed nationally and overseas. Michael Yabsley says Inverell is an ideal location for the factory.
It's strategically located between Sydney and Brisbane. The firm estimates that they'll be saving up to about 17% on their transport costs, and also they know the advantages of a stable labour force in an area like Inverell, and I think for all of those reasons Inverell has seized a magnificent investment.
At Howzat, over 120 semi-finals and finals were played in the summer competition, with 72 events being decided. In all, over 1,000 athletes of varying shapes, sizes and ability fought out the finals of soccer, hockey, indoor cricket and netball, with all matches being fiercely contested. Even some flying llamas in the blue bibs, showing a remarkable resemblance to many who work at NBN, made their presence felt in a netball grand final, and believe it or not, are now the champions. John Pine debuted his new super sedan at the Motordrome last night and was on the receiving end from the start. A run-in with a wall, and then Dubbo's Mark Blyton parked himself on Don McEwen's bonnet. Max Bagent was in the wars also, slamming into the wall and knocking himself unconscious. And Darryl Farrelly was literally alight as he headed for the infield. Ron Pine won the race, and for racing fans, the news that Gary Rush won his 10th Australian Sprint Car title at Parramatta last night and will be a certain starter in the $20,000 Sprint Car Grand Prix at the Motordrome next Saturday night. 3 tries and many attacking moves pleased the hardest of critics, but a scoreline of 16-0 in your favour makes the most sombre coach smile a little, even if it is only a trial match. And the Knights' hierarchy could afford a facial crease or two after their team played enterprising football for sustained periods during the 4 20-minute quarter match against the Roosters. Leniency was shown for a few mistakes, a natural part of the first few matches of the year, with the summer gladiators over-eager to get back in the swing of things.
We were very encouraged by the sides across the board in the club, and that was reflected in some of the younger fellows who were given a start during that 80-minute period in the first grade trial, and I hope that will continue in the trials to come. So the proof of the pudding will be in the eating round March 22, and our next one is, of course, to defend the sevens on the weekend and then have a good shot at the Challenge Cup not too far away.
And the Knights will be out to defend their sevens crown this weekend. The next home game for the Knights is a double-header on Tuesday the 18th of February when they clash with Western Suburbs in the Challenge Cup, and the New South Wales Rugby League have issued their pricing structure for the fixtures.
The outer ground is $12 for adults and $6 concession, and they will be purchased on the night. In the grandstand, no concession, $20 grandstand, $17 on the concourse, and preference, of course, to the season ticket holders starting this Wednesday through for a week. Then the public have open slather on the remaining seats.
This morning, McGregor's relatives and fiancée gathered outside the court. Shortly after 10:30, McGregor was led in. The court heard the body of Robert Knox was found on Friday afternoon in his dilapidated Bellbird home. He'd suffered numerous injuries, including a punctured lung. The court was told McGregor signed a record of interview in which he admits he attacked Knox because he made unwanted sexual advances. Also mentioned today, the murder weapons, a spade and a knife. One of the implements was discovered this morning by police at Cessnock Tip. McGregor sat handcuffed and silent throughout the proceedings, his head bowed. Bail was refused. McGregor was remanded in custody to appear in Kurri Kurri Court next Monday. Defence counsel David Jones indicated his client will plead not guilty on the grounds of self-defence. Anthony Griffiths, NBN News.
Jared Heffernan is a serious young man when it comes to his music. When he sits down to play, the 24-year-old has his mind on the classical romantic masters such as Chopin, Beethoven and Liszt.
You have to be very intense, otherwise if you lose your concentration, you kind of, it's very difficult to keep on going at that stage. Then you need to be really concentrated and focused.
Jared began learning piano when he was 4. He practices for 8 hours a day and has just completed a 4-year Bachelor of Music degree at the Sydney Conservatorium. A scholarship win at the Newcastle Conservatorium's annual Keyboard Festival has given him a chance to pursue master's studies in New York. The young pianist's family first came to live in Newcastle when his father was posted to the Williamtown RAAF base. Jared's musical influences have come from Russia and Bulgaria through teacher Nikolai Everov. Before setting out to make his mark on the world stage, Jared will perform a concert with violinist Richard Tognetti at the Newcastle Conservatorium this Saturday night.
There's so many pianists around that are trying to do what I'm doing, so I mean it's very competitive, but I mean you can only do your best. And from there, you know, we'll probably go to Europe and try my luck there.
The old tin shed was like a furnace as the 12-man Falcon squad took their first tentative steps towards the top of the Australian basketball ladder. Rejoining the fold after a stint with the Hobart Tassie Devils, Sean Dennis, glad to be home to have another crack at his career. Making a big impact early is Murwillumbah youngster Alex Morgan-Lowe, back from 3 years college basketball in the States, and at 6'8" and 107 kilos, could be a real trump card. Everett Stevens will be the playmaking point guard, his recent form in the CBA outstanding. Stevens will have a head start on the rest.
End of the season when I was about to come over here, the coach, he didn't play me as much because he knew I was going to be leaving, and he was working in other guys. So I think right now I just really have to get my wind back, but other than that, everything, is going smooth.
Paul Kuiper has been in Newcastle for some weeks, and a lot will depend on the big fellow under the basket. Lending some expertise will be last year's NBL Best Defensive player Terry Dozier from Geelong, and Dozier is set to unite the whole shooting match.
I never went out there and tried to hog the ball up, but I was a great team player. But I also proved that I could score points when I needed to. I'm going to come to this team and play the same type of game I've always played.
It's only early, but there is a real feel of excitement at Broadmeadow.
I'm sure the players are looking forward to it, and we're happy that everybody's here, fit and ready to go. I think everybody's going to be anticipating a good year. The team's happy, and so far the coaching staff is happy.
That could change during the year, of course, but
I'm sure it might change on a daily basis, as always, but no, we're really looking forward to working.